Hi, everyone. We've had about 3 people back there joking about tripping over the curtain, so I'm very delighted that I didn't. First, I just want to thank everyone for what you've already brought to tonight. One of my favorite new learnings about what you can bring to presentations is presence and less perfectionism, just trying to bring your whole self. And so thanks to everyone who's already done that tonight and everyone who had notes. It made it a little more comfortable for me to have notes. So for those of us that have spent much of our lives in service of sustainability and social justice outcomes, it can be hard to accept that the world is still wildly off target to limit temperature increases to 1.5 degrees Celsius, and systemic inequalities are still deeply entrenched. I do believe the famous Martin Luther King quote that the arc of the moral universe is long, and my eye reaches but a little ways. So of course, the work of my generation is just one chapter in a long book. And as my colleagues will keep telling me, I know that urgent thinking is a classic indicator of white supremacist culture, and that in many BIPOC communities, urgency isn't quite the priority that we make it. And I do agree with Adrienne Marie Brown when she says, there is always enough time for the right work. And yet, I feel anxious. I feel anxious for all of us here and for the generations to come. If you believe the science, the magnitude of the encroaching climate crisis means that we no longer have any slack in the timeline. So I find myself here today really of 2 minds. One is that I kind of want to just give up and go drink whiskey in a corner with some of you, and I hope I get to do that at the end of this. And then the other half of me is finding new hope in this emerging regenerative business movement. So you've heard earlier today about some of the concepts of regeneration. There are many organizations like mine that are beginning to apply those concepts to business. And what I think the regenerative business movement has a chance to do is to catalyze the wholesale systems change we need to get us out of this mess that is of our own making. Because we do need systems change. Tinkering around the edges is no longer an option. The system gets what it's designed to get. Let me say that again. The system gets what it's designed to get. Therefore, we need to rewire the fundamental systems in line with the goals we want it to serve. We need a rewiring of the system from the current extractive business models to one that embraces the ability of all living systems and all living beings and ecosystems to regenerate, replenish, and create the conditions for more life. And we need business to do this. So what do I mean here? I believe we have a technical problem and an adaptive one. Technical problems are problems that are easy to understand, solutions exist, and they can often be implemented by experts. For example, applying some of the regenerative agriculture technologies that we've already heard about today to repair our lands. An adaptive challenge is one that is hard to see, requires change in values, beliefs, approaches to solve the challenge, and fundamentally, the people who have the problem are the people who need to solve it. As Roz Godelick said, professor of the Parsons School of Design, a fundamental problem with our current mental model for businesses is that we think a company's economic considerations for profit maximization transcend those of sustainability. With this mental model, we all end up answering the, what's the business case for sustainability? I did this for 20 years. This doesn't make sense, everyone. All institutions, businesses included, are nested in humanity, and humanity is nested in the planet. As our CEO has said, and though it is a bit grim, I think it paints the right picture, there is no such thing as a thriving business on a dead planet. So, in the purest sense of the word, sustainability is damn good for business. I would like to ask a provocative question, propose a new question, and that is what is the sustainability case for your business instead? Let me be clear, this is not about eschewing profits or sound business practices. Profits ensure that a business can succeed. But as Rebecca Henderson, author of Reimagining Capitalism, has said, Profits are always important, but they don't have to be the full goal in and of itself. After all, we all need to breathe to live, but breathing isn't the goal. So this is an adaptive problem. We need to change our mindset about business's role in solving the climate crisis. Okay, so back to this regenerative and just approach to business. What exactly is this? This is the definition that we've been coming up with. Pretty simple, but I love it. At its core, it is about recognizing the potential and fundamental right of all living beings and all systems to thrive. The fundamental potential and right for all living beings to thrive, from a tree to someone in your neighborhood. Going far beyond how a business minimizes its environmental impact or prevents human rights abuses, a just and regenerative approach aligns business goals in a way that recognizes our interdependence on all other people and living systems. There are positive signs. I'm excited to see the private sector waking up to this and setting net zero or even net positive climate goals. This is more than I would have ever thought possible when I started my career 25 plus years ago. Resources are being funneled into transitioning systems to be more sustainable. For example, transitioning a fossil fuel dependent energy sector into a renewable one. If we apply this new mindset, a just and regenerative mindset, we hopefully, for example, though, can center both regenerative and just outcomes and recognize that a renewable energy sector that doesn't address human rights abuses in renewable energy technology supply chains or leaves entire coal communities in poverty doesn't get us to where we want to be. So I'm going to leave you with one thing. There are many models out there about how you might repattern your business to move to one that has more regenerative and just principles, but one of my favorite is Marjorie Kelly from the Democracy Collaborative, and she recommends 5 considerations: purpose, flows of finance, governance, networks, and ownership. Let me go through those briefly. Purpose, beyond profit. What value does your company provide? How do you put purpose at the center of your decision making? Flows of finance. Not just what you do with your money, but the whole flow of money in and out of your business. Where do you get your money? What are you inadvertently supporting based on where you get your funding? Where then do you place your money, your investments? Are you looking at new business models that are more sustainable and distribute wealth more equitably? Or is your business built on extractivism and excessive consumption? Governance, one of my favorite ones. Anyone who's been on a board should like this one. Governance. Does your governance entrench power or work to change it? Who decides in your organization? And then more importantly, who decides who decides? Consider new participatory governance structures and new radical consent models. 4, networks. This is a key in regenerative principles. Your business does not exist in a vacuum. We are all part of a vast web, and your actions cause ripple effects. How are you positively influencing the networks that you're a part of? You are at several nodes in the system. What are you doing about bringing positive change at these nodes? And finally, ownership. How are you exploring new potential ways of ownership? A lot of you are probably seeing this. We're seeing a burgeoning in employee ownership, co-op, different kinds of board structures. To close out, I just want to say, I think the private sector is at a crossroads. I've worked in business or as a partner to business my entire career, and I do believe that business can be an incredible force for good. And I would so love for the Lancaster business community to be a trailblazer in the regenerative business movement, reinventing our current model of capitalism and supporting diverse communities so that we can all thrive. I would like to invite you all to continue the conversation with me over that whiskey later tonight. Thank you.